Welcome, curious minds, to the deep dive. We often talk about these big global events, economic shifts, political stuff,
Right.
but underneath all that, there are these quieter forces, almost invisible sometimes, that are constantly reshaping our world.
Definitely. Demographics are a huge one.
Exactly. And few are as profound, as impactful as these shifts in global demographics. They kind of dictate everything, don't they? Like who holds economic power, where the next big innovations might pop up.
Uh-huh. And even the challenges our planet faces, resource management, environmental stress.
Totally. So, quick question for you listening, without looking it up. What do you think are the most populous nations right now, like today?
It's a good question.
Yeah, most people probably have a couple of guesses, right?
Yeah.
But I bet there are some, deep surprises hiding behind those top spots, especially when you think about the long game, the implications.
And that's exactly what we're diving into today. This deep dive, we're going really close, getting detailed on the current state of global populations. Yeah. Our mission isn't just like listing the top 10 most populous countries for 2025 from the latest data. It's more about understanding the real stories behind those numbers.
The human element.
Precisely. The growth, sometimes astonishing growth. The declines, which are equally important. The massive opportunities these demographic shifts create.
And the challenges that come with them.
And the very real demands they place on each country and honestly on all of us globally.
Absolutely. This isn't just dry stats class. It's about the real world, the daily life stuff, and the massive future impacts these numbers have. We're talking global economics, political stability, environmental health, and yeah, like you said, the daily lives of billions of people.
It connects to everything.
It really does. So by the end of this, you'll walk away with more than just facts. You'll have, hopefully, a really well-informed view on this critical topic, maybe uncover some surprising stuff, and get a better handle on this strategic chessboard of human population.
Sounds good. Let's get into it.
All right, let's unpack this. We're seeing a truly massive shift, a real changing of the guard, you could say, right at the very top of the population list.
Yeah, the big one.
The sources all confirm it. India has officially overtaken China. It's now the most populous nation on Earth.
That's right. Happened fairly recently in the grand scheme of things.
And the numbers, when you actually dig in, tell this fascinating, almost opposite story between the two.
Completely different trajectories.
So let's start with India, the new number one. For 2025, India's projected population is, get this, about 1,463,865,000 people, roughly.
Wow. Just saying, it is incredible. 1.46 billion.
It's a staggering figure, world leader. And it's not just the sheer size, it's the momentum, the trajectory. India's still got a positive growth rate around 0.89% per year, which doesn't sound like a lot, but with that base...
And millions more people every single year.
Exactly. And what's also incredibly key, really central to India's whole story right now, is its demographic profile. It's remarkably young.
Yeah, the median age is striking.
Around 28.8 years. So the average person is still in their late 20s.
Think about that compared to many Western nations, or even China now.
Right. And crucially, a huge chunk of this massive population still lives in rural or semi-urban areas. That sets it apart from some other demographic giants that are more heavily urbanized.
And that youth factor is what people often call the demographic dividend.
Yeah.
It presents this almost unparalleled opportunity.
Explain that a bit more, the dividend idea.
Sure. So basically, a demographic dividend happens when you have a larger proportion of people in their working years compared to dependents, kids, and the elderly.
Okay.
If those working age people are employed and productive, it can create this massive economic boost.
Right, makes sense.
And in India's case, this youth bulge, with the average person still quite young, means an enormous potential workforce. Just imagine the scale of human capital ready for growing sectors. IT, manufacturing, services.
Potential is huge.
It's not just raw labor either. It's also a dynamic consumer base driving demand. We see government pushes like Make in India, Digital India. They're trying to harness this energy, right?
Trying to turn that potential into reality.
Exactly. To become a global manufacturing hub, a digital powerhouse. This young population could genuinely fuel strong economic growth for decades, really cementing India's place as a major global player, economically and geopolitically.
But there's always a but, isn't there?
Well, yeah. This incredible potential comes with equally massive demands. The huge question is, how does India actually capitalize on this dividend? It's not automatic.
What are the main hurdles?
Job creation, first and foremost. Estimates suggest they need to create something like 10 to 12 million jobs every year just to keep up with new people entering the workforce.
Wow, 10 to 12 million a year.
Yeah. That needs sustained economic growth, diversification, much more private investment. And then there's education. It's not just about numbers and seats.
Quality matters.
Hugely. The system needs to absorb this giant youth group and give them skills that actually work in a competitive global economy. Basic literacy, sure, but also advanced training, higher ed. Bridging that rural-urban skill gap is key.
And healthcare for 1.4 billion people.
Monumental task, especially with so many still rural or semi-urban. It needs huge investment in primary care, preventative stuff, maybe digital health solutions to reach remote areas.
That rural semi-urban distribution changes things too, right? Compared to a highly urbanized country.
Absolutely. You need different development strategies for infrastructure, how you allocate resources, how you deliver services like schools or clinics. To make sure it's fair, it doesn't just widen the gap between cities and countryside.
It's just mind-boggling when you try to picture it, the sheer scale of planning. A country where the average person is still figuring out their career, over 1 billion people needing not just basics, but real opportunities.
Education that leads somewhere. Healthcare that reaches everyone.
Across incredibly diverse regions, too, from mountains to coasts. It's a massive test of governance, innovation, and long-term thinking.
Definitely a long-term vision is needed.
Okay, now let's pivot. Let's look at China, now number 2.
The former longtime leader.
Right. In 2025, their population is estimated around 1,416 million people. Still enormous.
Still huge, yes. But the story is so different.
Starkly different, almost the mirror image, demographically speaking. China's actually seeing a negative or slightly shrinking growth rate, about minus 0.23% change per year.
So fewer people year on year.
Yeah. And this decline is mainly driven by a really low birth rate and, as a result, an increasingly aging population. It's a quiet shift, but profound.
And connecting this to the bigger picture, China is facing challenges that are almost the inverse of India's. A shrinking workforce is a big one.
Fewer young people coming in.
Exactly. Fewer people entering the labor market to replace retirees. That can really hit economic productivity and innovation over time, especially in sectors that used to rely on that huge pool of cheap labor.
So what are they doing about that?
Well, strategically, you see a big push towards automation, robotics, AI, and manufacturing, trying to offset the labor shortage. It's forward-thinking, but also really expensive.
Makes sense. And the aging population.
That puts immense strain on healthcare. People talk about the 4-2-1 problem, one child potentially supporting 2 parents and 4 grandparents.
Wow.
This growing elderly group needs more complex, long-term medical care. That pressures pension systems, elder care services. They're exploring things like community care, digital health for seniors.
And keeping that strong economic growth going, that must be harder too.
Significantly harder when you have fewer young workers and more people retiring. It impacts everything: pensions, consumer markets, even national savings.
And we have to acknowledge this current situation, especially the low birth rate, it didn't just happen randomly.
No, policy played a huge role.
Right. Without getting into the politics of it, just factually, historical choices like the one-child policy, which ran from roughly 1979 to 2015, that profoundly shaped China's demographic curve today and for the future. They're dealing with a reality now that's very different from the late 20th century. A clear example of policy's long shadow.
Absolutely. It's a textbook case, really, of these two giants on divergent demographic paths. India grappling with the youth, bulge potential, and pressure. China managing an aging society and shrinking workforce.
So different implications for the global economy then.
Totally different. India's dividend could make it a major consumer market, maybe a global labor supplier. China needs to innovate, adapt, probably shift more towards high-tech, high-value stuff to keep its economic clout with an older, smaller workforce.
Their needs, their priorities, their international roles, all shaped by these internal demographic shifts.
In really unique ways, yes.
But the story of humanity's numbers, it doesn't just stop with India and China, right? They dominate the top 2, obviously, with these fascinating opposite stories.
Yeah, they get a lot of the headlines.
But the rest of the top 10, they offer this equally compelling, diverse picture. Different kinds of growth, different challenges, unique national situations. We need to look at those too to really get the global picture.
Definitely. The rest of the list is incredibly varied.
Okay, so let's maybe start by grouping some of them. Let's look at nations that maybe like India, are also seeing big growth and have really young populations, where that youth bulge is a key factor.
Okay, good way to approach it. High growth young populations.
First in this group, coming in at number 5 on the overall list, is Pakistan. Projected population around 255 million people.
255 million, yeah.
And Pakistan is known for having a really high fertility rate, which naturally leads to a massive proportion of young people, one of the youngest large countries in the world.
Pakistan's definitely another prime example of navigating a major youth bulge, but, with its own specific context, socially and economically.
Same potential as India, maybe. Dynamic workforce.
The potential is there, yes. Innovation, workforce. But it also puts this immense constant pressure on the government to provide basic services and opportunities. It's a huge task.
Like what specifically?
Well, education again. Providing adequate schooling for a rapidly growing number of kids. That means building millions of classrooms, training tens of thousands of teachers, developing relevant curricula for the 21st century.
And are they managing that?
It's a major challenge. Low literacy rates, especially for women, are still an issue. Access to quality education, especially in remote areas, is tough.
Healthcare, too, I imagine.
Same story. The system needs to expand dramatically for millions of young people, tackling high maternal and infant mortality rates, ensuring basic medical access everywhere.
And jobs. Same pressure as India.
Absolutely critical. The economy has to grow fast enough to create millions of jobs annually for these young people entering the workforce. If not, then that dividend can flip. It can become a source of social strain, economic problems, underemployment, maybe even instability. So the stakes are very high.
Okay, sliding into number 6 overall, we find Nigeria. Population estimated at about 237.5 million people.
Nigeria's growth is really something else.
Yeah, it's consistently highlighted as one of the fastest growing countries globally, both in sheer numbers added and relative growth rate.
Driven by those high birth rates and a very young median age, its demographic path is incredibly important, not just for Africa, but for the whole world, really.
So monumental opportunities and monumental challenges.
Perhaps in the most concentrated form among the top 10, yeah. The upside. That youthful population driving future labor, innovation, entrepreneurship, it's undeniable if it's harnessed.
How could that look?
Well, this huge youth group could spark incredible economic dynamism, create a vibrant domestic market. Think tech hubs. The entertainment sector in Hollywood is already huge, right?
True. But the flip side?
The demands are intense. Job creation has to expand at an unprecedented rate just to keep pace, and they already struggle with high unemployment and underemployment.
Infrastructure must be under strain, too.
Immense pressure. Housing, you see rapid, often unplanned city growth. Informal settlements popping up. Transportation, power, clean water, all stretched thin.
And schools and hospitals?
Incredibly acute need. Teacher-student ratios can be way too high. Basic healthcare access is very limited in many areas. Without serious planning and investment, this rapid growth can just overwhelm existing systems.
So it makes improving living standards for everyone much harder, even with all that potential energy.
Exactly. It's a real race to build capacity alongside the population rate.
Okay. And rounding out this group of rapidly growing nations, at number 10, we have Ethiopia. About 135.5 million people.
Ethiopia stands out too, even in the top 10.
How so?
It has among the highest growth rates, also a very young population. It's clearly on a path towards becoming a major regional influence, demographically speaking.
So similar story to Nigeria and Pakistan, then.
Similar in terms of the youth potential, but again, its own context. Ethiopia faces really significant developmental challenges alongside this growth. Education is key access, and quality are vital to turn youth into a skilled workforce. But resources are stretched thin. Healthcare access is a major concern. Fighting diseases, limited facilities, especially rurally.
Infrastructure.
Basic infrastructure, roads, power, sanitation needs to keep pace with the expanding population. And remember, Ethiopia is largely agrarian.
So climate change vulnerability.
Exactly. And rapid population growth just intensifies the pressure on food security and land resources. The challenge for Ethiopia isn't just keeping pace. It's proactively investing in people and infrastructure ahead of the curve.
To turn that growth into a real dividend for sustainable development, better living standards.
Yeah, it's a critical race against time for them, really, creating opportunities for this generation that's coming up so fast.
Okay, let's shift gears a bit. Let's look at countries with different dynamics, maybe more moderate growth, often shaped by things like urbanization or unique geography. A different set of challenges and opportunities here.
Right, not everyone is booming quite like Nigeria or Ethiopia.
Coming in at number 3 overall is the United States. Population around 347 million in 2025.
Still growing, but moderately.
Yeah, moderate growth. And significantly, immigration plays a big role in that increase. It adds a lot to the demographic expansion and, dynamism.
That's a key point for the U.S. It's a fascinating mix of factors. While it doesn't have that rapid internal growth like some others, its diversity and sheer size geographically create unique issues.
How does immigration fit in?
Well, it doesn't just boost the population numbers. It brings dynamism, fills labor gaps in key industries, adds to cultural diversity. But, of course,
It also brings complex policy debates, integration, resources.
exactly. And then there's managing the existing infrastructure for over 340 million people. Huge transportation networks, aging power grids, water systems. It's a constant, expensive effort.
And the diversity within the U.S. matters too, right?
Hugely. Think about the massive differences across states and regions. You've got Sun Belt states booming, some Rust Belt cities maybe shrinking. So national policies for education, healthcare, city planning, they have to be incredibly adaptable. You can't have a one-size-fits-all approach.
And resource management must be complex too, with that size and spread, water, energy, land.
A constant balancing act.
Yeah.
Especially with different climates, different regional needs, sometimes clashing with national priorities. California's water issues versus, say, needs in the Midwest.
That's a great point. You really have to picture the difference. A packed city like New York needing one thing, subways, high-rises. Sprawling suburbs in Texas needing something else. Remote towns in the plains needing something else entirely. Any big national plan, whether it's infrastructure or anything else, has to juggle all those realities. Managing California's water, revitalizing Ohio's industrial areas, it's all part of the same puzzle.
It requires immense coordination.
Okay, next up, number 4, Indonesia. Around 285, maybe 286 million people.
Indonesia. Also positive growth, moderate, and relatively young, too.
Yeah, but its geography adds a twist, right?
A huge twist. Indonesia is the world's largest archipelago, thousands of islands. So, well, it shares some of that youth potential we talked about with India.
Like a dynamic workforce potential.
Right, but connecting those dispersed populations, providing fair services, managing resources across all those islands, it adds layers of complexity.
How do they even tackle that?
It demands really innovative strategies. Infrastructure means inter-island shipping, digital connectivity is crucial, logistics, governance, it's all harder.
Is development even across the islands?
Not really. Java, the main island, is super populated, urbanized, economically strong. But many other islands are much less developed. So balancing growth, protecting the environment, especially from climate change like sea level rise affecting coasts, is a massive challenge.
So the youth are an engine, but managing that engine across thousands of islands is the unique Indonesian challenge.
Precisely. Achieving balanced regional development is key for them.
Moving on to number 7, we've got Brazil, around 213 million people.
Brazil. Slower growth now compared to some others we've discussed.
Yeah, slower growth rate. And interesting dynamics with urbanization still happening, big cities expanding, but also vast remote regions, like the Amazon.
Brazil's story is kind of a different phase of demographic evolution. Slower growth might ease some pressures, maybe allowing focus to shift towards quality of life, strengthening social safety nets.
But the cities are still growing.
Yeah, urbanization continues. That puts pressure on urban planning, housing, infrastructure in those concentrated areas. You see the expansion of favelas, challenges with transport, sanitation in big cities like Rio or São Paulo.
And the remote areas.
That's the other side. Vast areas like the Amazon basin still face challenges of access to services, equitable development, plus huge environmental concerns tied to resource extraction, deforestation.
So it's a dual challenge, managing crowded cities and reaching remote populations, while maybe also starting to see aging in the more developed urban centers.
Exactly. It's managing concentrated growth and dispersal, and now, increasingly, the beginnings of population aging in some segments.
Okay, finally, let's touch on countries grappling with maybe the extreme super high density or the opposite, population decline.
Right. The outliers in a way.
At number 8, we have Bangladesh. Estimated population around 176 million people.
And the defining word for Bangladesh is density.
Yeah, incredibly high population density, one of the most crowded nations on Earth.
And that raises the question, what does that extreme density actually mean for daily life, for the country's future, especially for Bangladesh, on a low-lying delta prone to flooding?
What are the biggest impacts?
Housing is under constant, intense pressure. Affordability, overcrowding, Informal settlements, just sheltering everyone safely on vulnerable land. Transportation, especially in Dhaka, the capital, is famously gridlocked. It really hampers the economy.
Environment must be tough, too.
Incredibly difficult. Managing waste from so many people, air and water pollution, ensuring clean resources is a huge challenge. Food security is critical too, feeding a massive population from limited farmland that's vulnerable to erosion, salt intrusion, climate change.
And public health.
Yeah.
Crowded conditions.
Yeah. Make preventing and managing disease outbreaks really hard. Sanitation is a constant battle. It puts enormous strain on the health system.
It's genuinely hard to wrap your head around very high population density. Thousands of people per square kilometer, sometimes tens of thousands in cities. It shapes everything. Your walk to the market, your commute, finding any open space, every bit of land, every drop of water is precious. Things like vertical farming or clever transport aren't just nice ideas, they're essential.
Absolutely essential for survival and progress.
Okay, then the opposite case. Number 9, Russia. About 144 million people.
And Russia's population is actually shrinking.
Yeah, negative growth. Why is that happening?
It's a mix of factors. Persistently low birth rates, people emigrating, especially younger people, and an increasingly aging demographic overall. It's a long-term strategic headache for them.
Similar to China's aging issue, then.
Parallels, yes, but Russia's decline is perhaps more sustained and pronounced. And a shrinking, aging population brings its own distinct pressures.
Like economically?
A smaller workforce impacts productivity, growth potential. You get labor shortages in key areas, manufacturing, maybe even the military.
Yeah.
Socially, think about pensions and healthcare.
Fewer young workers supporting more retirees.
Exactly. It strains the whole social welfare system, creates this intergenerational burden. They try policy fixes, incentives to boost births, but success has been limited.
And it probably affects their global standing, too.
Potentially, yes.
Yeah.
National power, economically, militarily. A country with a declining population faces different strategic calculations than one growing rapidly. It's about managing scarcity of people across a huge resource-rich land.
Okay, wow. We've painted these really detailed individual pictures of the top 10. India, China, the US, Indonesia, Pakistan, Nigeria, Brazil, Bangladesh, Russia, Ethiopia.
A real mix.
A real mix indeed. So now let's step back. Let's try to connect the dots. Looking at all these together, what are the bigger patterns? What deeper insights jump out from this global demographic snapshot?
Yeah, let's pull those threads together.
So let's really try to connect these dots now. Looking at the bigger themes emerging from this deep dive into the demographic giants. It's not just 10 separate stories, it's the global tapestry they create.
Absolutely. And the first, most central point we have to stress again is that massive shift at the top. India's rise, China's slight decline.
It's more than just swapping ranks.
Oh, definitely. It signifies a real rebalancing of global human capital, economic potential, maybe even geopolitical weight down the line. But beyond those two, our dives show this incredible diversity and growth patterns across the top 10.
Right.
You've got the rapid expanders, Nigeria, Pakistan, Ethiopia. Then the moderate growers like the US, Indonesia, often influenced by immigration. And then Russia and China facing decline or stagnation.
So everyone's dealing with different problems, different opportunities.
Fundamentally different policy priorities, resource challenges, economic outlooks. Each nation has to adapt uniquely. And for the world, it means understanding we live in a multi-speed demographic world. Different regions moving at very different paces.
Which affects everything from trade deals to climate talks, I guess.
Completely. It demands tailored international development, tailored cooperation strategies.
Now, one pattern that definitely jumped out was the youth bulge. We saw it clearly in India, Nigeria, Pakistan, Ethiopia, all sharing these relatively young median ages.
Yeah, the youth bulge is a defining global trend right now, especially in South Asia and Africa. And it's worth digging into because it really is a double-edged sword.
Okay, break that down, the two edges.
So the asset side. It's incredible potential, a vast, young, often adaptable labor force ready to drive growth in industry and services. Often it's a source of innovation, young people adopting tech, starting businesses.
Entrepreneurial spirit.
Exactly. That energy can fuel strong economic growth, create a vibrant domestic consumer market like we talked about with India. Huge potential upside.
Okay, the sharp edge.
The challenge side is equally, if not more, significant. This potential asset puts immense pressure on governments and economies to actually deliver.
Like we discussed, jobs, schools.
Precisely. An urgent need to create enough jobs, and not just any jobs, but decent, productive ones, for millions entering the workforce yearly. That needs sustained growth, diversification, investment.
Education quality, again.
It's critical, from primary right through to higher ed and vocational training. Massive investment needed in buildings, teachers, relevant skills for the global market, and healthcare, maternal, child, preventative, mental health for this huge young group.
And if those aren't met,
then instead of a dividend, you risk high unemployment, social unrest, economic instability. Some people even call it a potential youth bomb if not managed well.
Yeah.
So the pressure is intense.
Yeah, it's sobering when you think about the sheer scale, just the number of classrooms, hospital beds, entry-level jobs needed for hundreds of millions, all coming of age around the same time.
It requires incredible foresight and action now for future stability.
Okay, now flip that coin. Let's look at the quieter crisis. Population decline or stagnation, like in China and Russia.
Right, the other end of the spectrum. And this brings its own profound challenges. Economically, a shrinking workforce directly hits productivity and growth potential.
Fewer workers, less output.
Generally, yeah. Less innovation maybe, slower market growth, a smaller tax base to fund public services, and the big one, social welfare systems.
Pensions and healthcare again.
Exactly. More retirees, fewer young workers paying in. That can make pensions, elderly care unsustainable without difficult policy choices of raising retirement age, higher taxes, finding efficiencies. It creates intergenerational tension.
And it could even shift global power dynamics.
Over the long term, potentially yes. A country's economic weight, its military capacity, its diplomatic influence, all can be affected by a shrinking demographic and economic footprint. It forces a rethink of economic models, social contracts, even the role of automation as a replacement for people.
Now, beyond just the total numbers, you mentioned where people live is critical. We talked about high density in Bangladesh, crowded urban areas in India, Indonesia, Brazil.
Absolutely crucial point. High population density, especially with ongoing urbanization, has far-reaching consequences for quality of life and sustainability.
Like what?
Infrastructure, first off. Housing is a constant battle. Affordability, overcrowding, slums like Dharavi in Mumbai or Brazil's favelas. Transport networks get gridlocked roads. Public transit leading to congestion, pollution, lost productivity.
Utilities, too. Water, power.
Constantly strained.
Yeah.
Expanding and maintaining water, sanitation, electricity for growing cities is costly and logistically complex.
And an environment.
Takes a big hit. Managing massive amounts of waste, air, and water pollution, protecting green spaces, it's all harder. Cities can become heat islands, worsening local climate effects.
How does it affect people socially?
Density shapes communities. Social cohesion, how resources get shared. It can foster innovation and economic buzz, but if not managed well.
Inequality, crime, stress.
Yeah, it can lead to increased social inequalities, crime, stress. It all comes down to thoughtful, inclusive urban planning and strong public services. How these nations manage urbanization is absolutely key to their future.
And finally, just stepping back one last time, the collective weight of just these top 10 countries.
It's staggering.
Yeah.
While each story is unique, together they account for, roughly 56% to 58% of all humans on the planet.
Wow, well over half the world in just 10 countries.
Yeah, each one contributing several percent to the global total. And that concentration has huge geopolitical and economic significance.
Meaning what happens in these 10 really matters globally.
Disproportionately so. Their demographic paths, their challenges, their successes, they heavily influence global trends in economic growth, resource use, environmental impact, international relations, even achieving global goals like the UN SDGs.
So understanding their individual stories isn't just interesting.
It's essential for understanding our collective future and where global efforts need to focus.
So wrapping this up, what we've really seen in this deep dive is this incredibly dynamic picture for 2025. Both huge changes and ongoing challenges in global population. India's leading, embodying that potential of a massive young population. China's in a totally new phase, managing an aging society. And countries across Africa and South Asia are growing incredibly fast, each with their own unique mix of opportunities and hurdles.
And let's just underscore this again. These shifts, these numbers, they aren't just for academics or statisticians.
Right, the real world.
They have tangible, far-reaching consequences. Global economics, international politics, environmental health, basic global planning for food, energy, climate change, health, everything.
So understanding these trends, the details of growth, the complexities of decline, the pressures of density, it's just crucial.
Absolutely crucial for understanding the future of our interconnected world and for making smart, effective decisions globally that will impact billions of lives.
So let's leave our listeners with a final thought. If we connect this to the really big picture, looking out, say, 20 or 30 years. Consider this.
Mhm.
How might these demographic shifts, this contrast between rapid growth here and rapid aging or decline there, how might that fundamentally reshape international power, resource distribution, even what we prioritize globally?
Big questions.
Yeah. Will we see more African nations with those huge youth bulges and fast growth rising to the very top population ranks, bringing new perspectives, new demands, new cultural weight?
It seems likely, given the trends.
And how will that accelerating aging trend in East Asia, parts of Europe, fewer young workers, more retirees, how will that truly redefine the basic fabric of society? Family structures, how we care for elders, economic productivity, maybe even pushing technological innovation in new directions.
It forces adaptation on every level.
It's a lot to think about, for sure. But these are those quiet, powerful forces we mentioned at the start. They're already shaping the world you live in right now, and definitely the one your children will inherit.